Hello, my name is Hayden. I am the partner and CEO of Conscious Choosing. And Conscious Choosing is a company that sees the value of NVC and is bringing NVC into corporations. I think it might be valuable to share a little bit about my life before we get into the presentation and we introduce Conscious Choosing for Flow to you. I have been a lifelong entrepreneur and have started 14 companies in my life. And in 2000, I learned about a company called Vital Smarts that wrote the book Crucial Conversations and Crucial Confrontations. And I became certified by them and traveled around the world consulting with corporations. What was consistent after the trainings was people come up to me and go, wow, this is really good material, but it's a little complicated. When do I use this and when do I use that? And I thought, there has to be a simpler, easier way. I kept thinking about that for a while until 5 years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to Marshall Rosenberg and his book around nonviolent communication. I read the book. I did all the courses offered, and then I went and studied with Marshall Rosenberg. What impressed me was he had been in some of the most troubled areas in our world and had taken chaos and transformed it into harmony. And I thought, if companies could transform conflict into harmony and connection with each other, they would be so much more effective in what they were doing. And most companies are focused on results, getting results. Are we going to get the results that we're after? And they are very result focused. So we had to shift them a little bit into saying the way we get results is by connecting with each other and to working well with each other. So we created a 2-day product called Conscious Choosing for Flow. We bring it into corporations. They understand the importance of feelings and needs that drive everything we do as human beings. And they have the awareness and skill set in how to address feelings and needs so that it helps them get results and they don't just get bogged down in the feelings. So we created Conscious Choosing for Flow, and we have been bringing it into companies the last couple of years, and we're seeing a real encouragement, seeing the results, and companies are now sharing with other companies about the results we're getting, and we're getting much more interest. So we encourage you to go to our website, consciouschoosing.com, and there are a couple videos there. One's a 4.5-minute video, and the other's a 3.5-minute video that explains what we do around bringing NVC into companies, how we brought two concepts together that dovetailed so nicely together. One is NVC and the other is the STAR process for results that high reliability companies use. And high reliability companies are nuclear power plants, the airline industry, and now healthcare. So the STAR process starts with stopping. What is our current need and what is our shared goal that we're going to work on? So I am going to introduce Conscious Choosing for Flow, and I'm going to walk you through an actual interaction I had with the CEO of a company and the president of a company that were in conflict with each other. And by using this process, we were able to deal with a conflict they had had for over 5 years, and we did it in 20 minutes. That 2-hour meeting I had with them and walking them through the formula for flow, which brings NVC and high reliability together in a seamless approach, they decided that the entire company needed to use this, and now we're working with their company. Their company is an international manufacturing company that has 900 employees and is a $185 million company. So get ready, sit back, watch this 34-minute video that is going to explain what the formula for flow is, how we bring NVC in, and we're actually going to give you a STAR process for results when it's over if you would like it, and you can opt in to receive it on your own. So look forward to sharing this with you and to talk a little bit about what you can do moving forward. Welcome to Conscious Choosing for Flow, creating results through our human connection. I'm going to walk you through a brief introduction of this, including the progressive-regressive cycle and our approach to bringing NVC into corporations so that it is simple, easy, and effective. And we bring this into companies, and it's a 2-day training that we certify other trainers to be certified in. The very first thing companies want is how to get their people to great results. Companies are all about getting results. So if you can't show me how to get results, I don't want it. This is the center of every company that I've ever worked with. So there are a lot of good products out there to help people get results. And the question we ask is, what happens when conflict arises? You know, there's trainings like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there's situational leadership, there's crucial conversation, crucial confrontations. All of these are designed to help people get results. But what happens when conflict arises? Most people say, we revert back to our old way of operating. And we have a saying at Conscious Choosing, under stress, we tend to regress. That when it's stressful, when there's conflict, we regress back to our old habits and the way we interact with each other. And we ask, is it usually technical or interpersonal challenges that create conflict? And most all agree it's interpersonal. Whether it's technical or not, we still have to address it interpersonally. During the June edition of Vanity Fair magazine in 2012, they had an article called The Lost Decade of Microsoft. And in that article, they said over 10 years, Microsoft lost billions of dollars. And it wasn't because they weren't technologically advanced. They were probably the most technologically advanced company in the world. And yet they lost the race to several key products and lost billions of dollars. And most of those products were Apple, because Apple had a different way of interacting and connecting with others. So what we're going to do during this Conscious Choosing for Flow is introduce you to a concept that most people have heard of, they know, and we're going to raise this concept to the level of a skill. And the concept is called curiosity. When we are curious about other people's feelings and needs, it sends a message that we care and we're interested. A lot of people in NVC talk about empathy. What I have found in my years of working with companies is there's a lot of confusion around what empathy is, and they can grasp a hold of what curiosity. So we use this concept as a skill, and we teach people how to use it. The challenge, and most people would agree with this first sentence, conflict and disconnection is something no one enjoys or can completely avoid. Most, shake their head, yes, obviously. And so we talk about the ability to transform that destructive tension of conflict and disconnection from other human beings into a dynamic energy of creativity and connection on the spot in real time, not an hour or a day or a week after it happens, but right when it's happening, using the power of curiosity specifically around people's feelings and needs. And we asked, how valuable would that be? And everyone said that would be extremely valuable, especially with my relationships at work and at home. So this transforming conflict is an approach we use rather than negotiating conflict or managing conflict. We think it's much more effective to transform it in the moment. So we teach this real-time tool at Conscious Choosing for Flow and how to transform conflict into creativity, which will optimize their results, both professionally and personally. And we call this transformation flow. And we're flowing with each other. And flow happens when we're connected, when we take each other's feelings and needs seriously, we acknowledge them. And when this happens, there's this positive cascade effect we call the progressive cycle. And that results from being in flow with others, and it looks like this. When we begin with curiosity, and we're curious about other people's feelings and needs, and it sends that message that, hey, we're at least interested, we're asking, and we're wondering what's going on. There's this ability to connect with others where it keeps our thinking more rational and logical because it's safe and respectful, so that we can determine the best way to act moving forward. When we're in this progressive cycle, people typically say they have this internal conversation that says, it works for me. I like it, it works for me. This is what I really want. This is what I want at work. Something that really works for me. And if we can keep it safe and respectful, that's when I'm willing to risk. That's when creativity and innovation happen. That's when there's exceptional results. This is important for us as a company as well as us individuals. On the other side, when we're disconnected from others, it's something that we experience that our feelings and needs are not being acknowledged or taken seriously. They're being ignored, they're being walked over. And when this happens, we have a need to self-protect. We all have it. It's built into us to self-protect. And there's this negative cascade effect when we have to pull in and self-protect. And it looks like this. It's the regressive cycle. And usually we have a need to self-protect when we experience reptilian reactions of fight, flight, and freeze. Someone gets aggressive with us and they start fighting with us. We have to self-protect, and some of us use flight to leave, and some of us get aggressive, and it violates safety and respect in our interactions with others. Most people would say, it doesn't work for me. They say it in their personal relationships or at business. If they have to self-protect, it's not the optimal way that they would like to operate. This is really about I feel that I don't feel safe, I react with reptilian reactions, and then I think about what I did. Someone said, when you make a speech out of anger, you will make the best speech you will ever regret. Most of us can't take back the words, so how do we operate in a way that's most successful and will get results and will be best for our company? We use curiosity to consciously choose curiosity about the current needs and creating a shared goal together before we simply forge ahead with strategies. Most executive teams I work with or have seen, they bring an agenda item to the meeting and they state the agenda item, and immediately executive starts developing solutions or strategies to meet that agenda item, which we say is not the best thing to do, because people may be working on their own agenda. If you haven't clearly identified the needs and create a shared goal, your brainstorming sessions may be fractured from different people's own personal needs that they're wanting to address. So we have created a formula for flow. And this is about consciously choosing curiosity to connect with others. And you can see the skill for connection in the middle. And then to create results, since most companies want results. That's what they're after. So first we connect with others around observations, feelings, needs, and making a request. And then we move into the STAR process for results. So I'm going to walk you through a real life example that occurred between a CEO and a president of a company when I was asked to meet with them to see what is this thing called conscious choosing for flow and can it really help us? So the first thing we do is connect. And when I walked into the 2-hour meeting with the CEO and president who were siblings, the older brother was the CEO and the younger brother was the president, and they had that sibling rivalry going on. They were digging in their heels, they were demanding their way, and it wasn't working. So we talk about how to connect, about what's happening around us, the observations, what's going on inside of us, the feelings, and what drives it all is whether our needs have been satisfied or not. So I gave them a little introduction to conscious choosing for flow. And I said, you know, the first thing that we need to do in order to connect is consciously choose curiosity about the needs of others before identifying strategies. So what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is to share with me a conflict that's been going on for years, and then I will identify each of your needs, and then we'll create a shared goal that will meet each of your needs before we identify a strategy. And they agreed to it. So I began with this. Often the worst disagreements occur when both parties think they're right. I looked at them and I said, I imagine both of you think you're right. And they shook their heads, yes. I said, so why does this happen? And they came up with all sorts of ideas. I said, well, let me share with you what we came to realize is that both of you have legitimate needs that have not been acknowledged or addressed. Would you agree with that? And they kind of wondered and they go, probably. I said, okay. So let's talk about some of your conflicts and what's been going on with each of you. And I said, the reason conflicts are driven by needs is because everything we do is in service of our needs. And I talked a little bit about Marshall Rosenberg and his book, Nonviolent Communication, and the effectiveness it can have of turning chaos into harmony if at first you stop and identify what the needs are. They were intrigued. So I shared them Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we have printed out. And so, you know, this has been around since 1943. It hasn't necessarily been introduced to companies. It's how we operate as human beings, but we haven't brought it into our corporate world. And that's what conscious choosing is doing, bringing these needs lists and subsequent needs that fit underneath these into identifying how we can connect with each other. And I said I guess that each of you may be feeling a little survival. You're wanting to survive as CEO and president, you're fighting for survival, and perhaps you don't feel safe. They agreed. I showed them a list of other needs that fall underneath these, and they had a need to be understood, a need for flexibility, and a need for efficiency. So we started out with, okay, that's what's going on with you. You have these needs. So let's look at a feelings list. And I showed them a feelings list. And I said, around any of these conflicts that you two have going on, what are some of the feelings that you're feeling? And they both looked at the list at the bottom and said, we're feeling angry, aggravated, cranky, anxious, worn out with the whole thing. I said, so you both feel that way? And they go, yeah, absolutely. I said, now, we have connected that you both feel this way. You know what it's like. Do you like it? Does it work for you? And I go, no, it doesn't work for us. That's why we brought you in here. We want to deal with this somehow, and we don't know how to. So I explained feelings just a little bit more, and I said, feelings are an early warning sign that something's going on and we need to pay attention to it. we need to go, these feelings are messages being sent to us, and if we have the ability to decipher what these messages are, that our needs have not been satisfied, and we are able to identify what those needs are, then we can use our feelings as gas to get our needs met. But first we have to use our feelings as a GPS to point us to what those needs are. And we talked a little bit about feelings have gotten a bad rap, that we don't like negative feelings because we associate it with all of the negative things that happen of people yelling and maybe throwing dishes or something. But it's neither good nor bad. It's just simply a message that our needs have not been satisfied or addressed. And when we are able to do that and then identify the needs, we are much more likely to get our needs met. And they were intrigued. I said, so it's really how we're hardwired in our brain. The limbic system is our feelings, where we experience our feelings, and when they're not satisfied, it sends a little message to our reptilian brain saying, danger, danger. There is danger going on, your survival's at risk. So we get aggressive, or we lash out at others, or we check out in order to self-protect. And Marshall Rosenberg said, judgments, blames, or complaints are a tragic expression of an unmet need. So the reason they're tragic is because when we use our reptilian reactions to try and get our needs met, the very opposite happens. People disconnect from us and we have challenge getting our needs met. So what we're going to do is learn how to turn on our higher reasoning center, the neocortex of our brain, the executive function of our brain, by being curious and asking questions and finding out what those needs are so that we can get them addressed. They were quite curious at this point. So I said, okay, take a look at these two orbs circling around. One is needs, words needs, and the other one's feelings. And as they unravel, you'll see that they will form our emotional intelligence DNA. This is how we are all built around our feelings and needs. That when our needs are satisfied, we have positive feelings. When our needs aren't satisfied, we have negative feelings. And it's just simply a guidance system to help us get our needs met. And this is an approach that when we have this emotional intelligence and we're able to do this, we're being much more effective in everything we do, both professionally and personally. So I said, let's go ahead. Let's share a conflict with me that you've been having for the last several years. And we'll use this process to identify the needs, create a shared goal. Step number one, stop. And then after we do that, then we'll brainstorm strategies at two think. And then once we come up with a strategy we like, we'll make requests for commitments to put it into action. We'll experience it, make sure it's going to reach our shared goal, and we'll review it to see if there's anything we need to stop, modify, or start in order to make sure we reach our shared goal. They were in agreement. So I said, what we're doing here is we're identifying what your needs are through your feelings. We're being curious about the other person's feelings and needs and what's happening, in this particular conflict. What is going on? What's the observations? What are the facts of the situation? And then we will make a request of each of you to create a shared goal. They agreed. So I showed them the STAR process for results worksheet. And I said, we're going to fill this out. And by the time we're done, we'll have the whole thing filled out and you will have a solution to your conflict. One of them joked around and said, this has been going on for 5 years and you're going to do it in 15 minutes? Good luck, Hayden. I said, okay, let's just try it out, see what happens. Try it on like a new pair of shoes. If it works, Great, we'll do it. And if not, nothing's lost. They agreed. I said, so the first thing is stop, which is around our needs. And this is why we do things. This is why we do anything, is to have our needs met. Second thing we'll do is think about how we're going to get our needs met. What are the strategies to do that? And then we'll act upon it. That's what we'll do. And then we'll review later to go, now what? Are we meeting our shared goal or not? And what do we need to stop, modify, or start? They agreed. So we worked on the conflict, and the conflict was the CEO, Mark, called emergency leadership meetings. And so that's what Mark did. And he liked the ability to call emergency leadership because he wanted the flexibility to lead, he wanted the agility and the freedom as a CEO to do what he wanted to do. The president, his brother, Brian, said, this disrupts our workflow, people can't plan, they have no idea when he's going to call a meeting, and then we have to cancel ours, and then it caused quite a disruption. So we identified that Brian's needs were for consistency, stability, and predictability. And the organization had a need to include their leaders and to have them participate in difficult situations or strategies for moving the company forward. So we took these needs and we created a shared goal. And the shared goal was to have the flexibility to call leadership meetings while having a consistent and predictable process for doing so. They agreed. They thought that was a good shared goal. And if we could attain that, that would really make a difference for them because this conflict has been going on for far too long. So I said, so, share some of the facts with me. And the facts were Mark calls leadership meetings and others have to cancel their meetings. They agreed. Brian doesn't know when he'll call the meetings and he can't plan and it disrupts his workflow. They agreed. So we filled out the first why we're doing this in the stop part of the start process for results. Then we moved to strategies, and we were clear that needs is why we do things, it's what we just filled out, and strategies is what we'll do or how we'll try to get our needs met. And I asked them, so what strategies of yours are met by what needs of yours are met by the strategy of going to work? They were clear, supported their family, it developed the business for their larger family, but the need was for them to be effective as executives, and they agreed. So we looked at strategies. So said, so if we're going to have a predictable process for calling meetings that doesn't disrupt others and creates greater stability, what would that look like? Came up with 8 different strategies, and the one that they agreed on was have all leaders not schedule meetings at 1 o'clock each day. Then Mark can call a meeting any day at 1 o'clock. It doesn't disrupt their flow, and all the other leaders can keep their meetings as scheduled. And Brian now has predictability and stability with his schedule. They agreed. So once we've identified this strategy, then we realized that we're now in the progressive cycle. That we took their needs seriously, we identified strategies that they could agree on, and we're meeting their survival need by being consciously curious. And when we're consciously curious about both needs, it felt safe and respectful. They were both willing to risk, and that's when creativity and innovation happens. What was happening before is they were digging their heels in, butting heads, and being aggressive with each other. They were in reptilian reactions of fight, flight, and freeze, which has safety and respect lacking. When that happens, they need to self-protect, and they need to play it safe. and when they put in bare minimum effort. And they realized that this had been going on in the past, and at least they were moving forward to identify the needs and strategy. Then we moved into the act part and identified how they would put it into action, what they would do. So they agreed that they would inform all leaders not to schedule meetings at 1 o'clock during the week. Who would do it? Mark would do it. Since he's the CEO, when would he do it? He would do it the next day. And then we created a follow-up. And they said, so what's this follow-up about? And follow-up is a specific time, a specific place, and a specific purpose for the follow-up to let people know that what they agreed to do would be checked on, and they would have to give an account of what happened at a particular time, and it was something that created accountability. So we created a follow-up at 1 o'clock on June 1st, 2014. They went ahead and put this into action, and this is what we call walk the talk. Walk the talk is a willingness. They were both willing. They chose to do it. So it came from a mindset of choice, of consciously choosing to do something. They were aligned on their shared goals and the strategies that we talked about, and they agreed that they would loop back to each other if there were any challenges that the other needed to know about. And they agreed to keep their commitments assigned, scheduled, with a follow-up. And the follow-up is very important for accountability, and I stress that with them. So they went ahead and did it, this process, and it worked well for a couple of weeks. And then the leadership came to them and said, hey, we want to talk about this process you put in place, and we have some modifications we'd like to make. So what the leaders said is, we would like to stop with the 1 o'clock empty time frame for meetings, because we have a lot of other things going on. We'd like to modify it, and we'd like to meet 7 o'clock each Friday morning to cover what we need to cover, anything emergency, and do it once a week. Would that work for you guys? And so they agreed to start holding it that coming Friday, and they have been doing it for several weeks, and this modification of what the stop modifier start has worked well for them. Review is about fine-tuning relationships and results. It's like, how is it working? Are we meeting our shared goal? Are we taking each other's feelings and needs seriously? Review is probably the most important part in the STAR process for results, because that's where you catch challenges that have arisen that you probably didn't think about. The STAR process for results is used by high reliability organizations, which are nuclear power plants, airline industry, and now being used in healthcare. And they use the stop, think, the STAR process, stop, think, act, review, on everything that they're doing for focus of attention for everyone in the company. So this is what we filled out. And they said, Jay, you've taken a conflict that's been going on for 5 years, and you just brought us through this process in 15 to 20 minutes, and they looked at each other and smiled. I said, look at what just happened here. You two connected with each other, you smiled, and they said, yep, we both agree that we're going to need to bring this into our whole company because it's so effective and it helps us get results and helps us transform conflict into creativity right when it's happening, and we all need to learn this. So we have brought this into their company. It's a 900 employee company with income of $185 million and growing. And they are an international manufacturing company that shipped to Russia, South America, and China. And they feel that conscious choosing for flow is going to help them get far better results than if they use their reptilian reactions with each other to fight, flight, or freeze about their pet projects and how to work most effectively with each other. So we say, anytime there's conflict, stress, or confusion, take the curious ABC pause. Put your finger on the pause button of your human recorder and pause and acknowledge your reaction, how you're feeling, angry, upset. Breathe deeply to change the oxygen content in your brain and get more oxygen there, and send a message to your reptilian brain you're not going to get into a fight. And then choose curiosity about observations, feelings, and needs, so to connect with each other so that you can work more effectively through the STAR process for results. Most companies will agree that without their people, they are nothing. That it's people that create the results that they most want. And we say businesses are businesses through people. That it's people that make the difference, and we bring it to the level of a choice. You can choose to operate this way where you're at each other, you're arguing with each other, or you can choose to operate this way where people run the conversation ahead. It works for me. So one conversation, it doesn't work for me, people don't like fighting, and the other is, it works for me. One is the progressive cycle, and the other is the regressive cycle. It's your choice which one you want to operate, and in order to operate this way, you have to have the required awareness and tools to make sure you operate in the progressive cycle. So this is the formula for flow: skill for connection, which uses NVC to connect with others, and then the STAR process for results, which is used by high reliability organizations. And we think bringing these two together is a perfect fit because they complement each other so well. And this is the process that we bring people through in 2 days, and we certify trainers for them to bring it into companies. So thank you very much for spending this time with me, and I hope this has been of value to you, and that you will check us out on our website, consciouschoosing.com. And at the end of July, our book will be available. The book is called Conscious Choosing for Flow, and you will be able to purchase it on Amazon. The subtitle for the book is Transforming Conflict into Creativity. So it's been my pleasure bringing you through this, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thank you.